typically push too hard initially with that. I focus on the things that we can actually put time, energy, and effort into that is a win-win for all of us.
The whole purpose of this show is to engage with business owners and be able to answer questions for people that will give them some insight and perspective on how to grow and scale a business. Not only leadership, but real life examples. This is the golden moment. I would do business with you right now.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to 10X Owners Live. How is it going, everyone? My name is Heather Block.
And I am Candice McNow.
And you're probably wondering why we don't look like Brandon Dawson or Natalie Dawson.
We have the blonde hair going.
I was going to say, we have a little bit on our side, maybe just a little bit. But we are here in place of Brandon and Natalie because Brandon is currently up in Seattle, Washington, attending a very important potential awards dinner. And so we're going to all wish him a lot of luck on that. But with that said, we are here because we're excited to share with you the secrets to what you have been receiving emails about and being on this call tonight, which is about how to increase that cash flow.
Cash flow.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Who wants more cash?
Ooh.
Put a 10X in the chat if you want more cash. I know I do.
There you go.
One person. There they come. All right.
Hey, by the way, who is brand new to this Owners Live call? If you've never been here before, can we get new in the chat? I just want to get a little bit of a lay of the land. If you could write new. Oh, welcome. I love this. Quite a few new people.
Marcus. Welcome, welcome.
Let's go, Marcus.
Rain, Amy.
Luciano. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, you guys, welcome to 10X Owners Live. This is your resource every single Tuesday night to get information around how to grow and scale your business. And tonight specifically, again, we talk about how to increase cash flow. But really what a lot of people, Candice, I think you can agree with this, a lot of people think about cash flow is like, give me the tactical resources and things that I need to do right now to increase that cash, but there's a missing piece that they might not be thinking about.
Well, there is. There's not a silver bullet, unfortunately, as much as people think there's one in marketing and all the other facets of your business. It truly comes down to what we speak to all the time. Businesses don't move people. Your people move the business. And what also helps move your people? Leadership.
Yep. Leadership.
Little thing called leadership.
And I think that a lot of times people look at leadership as kind of this buzzword, but the significance of it is critically important. And as an example, if you were just to look at Cardone Ventures and even Brandon's other companies, Stratus Dental, Audigy Group, which is the company that, if you don't know, he sold for 151 million. But most importantly, the really impressive part is 77 times EBITDA, one of the highest multiples ever paid. Really unheard of. Yeah. And what that came down to was not just the processes and the systems and the platform that was in place, but also the leadership because of the people. I mean, he still has his leadership team running that organization now 5 years later, even though he's no longer the CEO of that company. And just a little background on us, if you don't know who we are, we do have a little bit of tenure with Brandon and his leadership. So what I'd like to do first is give you a little background. So Candice, if you could please tell them who you are and where you come from.
I would love to. So currently at Cardone Ventures, I have the absolute opportunity to lead our fabulous strategic business unit teams. And so what that is teams made up of 5 subject matter experts, which help guide and advise all of our business owners through actual implementation of a lot of the things we're going to be talking about here this evening. Prior to that, though, my journey, I certainly had to work my way through, go through my own trials and tribulations, get thrown down by my face mask by Brandon himself to be able to
He might have grabbed it a few times and pushed it down gently.
You know, came up muddy, clean it off, you're good to go. With that, though, it's all about being able to find people and individuals who instill their trust in you as a leader based off of what you're able to exemplify. And true leadership comes through influence. I'm a firm believer in that. It's not something that you can just stand up there one day and want everyone around you to follow you, regardless of title. It's earned. It's you being able to demonstrate that you're also all in it and that you are doing this little thing we talk about, model, mimic, and master, so that your people understand that you are rowing in the same direction. So I started as a coordinator. Heather Block herself, Heather Demeray at the time, actually was in my first interview, right?
I saw something in this girl.
they didn't want to hire me, believe it or not. I would not be here today if it weren't for Heather. So with that, my journey started as a coordinator. So I worked between our professional development team in the strategic business unit alongside that of events. So I was able to get insight through various lenses, I suppose you could say, not just the back end process piece, which is so important, but furthermore, actually working hand in hand with all you lovely people. So, you know, to compress all of where you know, I've had to trudge through. It was not easy. I went from a coordinator to then, I remember there after the 60-day mark, I believe our vice president at the time of the organization met with every single new employee just to check in and really cast the true vision and mission of what we were doing there at Audigy. And it was in that moment I asked for repeat meetings. And he was a little taken back. He said, I don't know if that's something that I've ever been asked. And he said, I'll tell you what. He's like, I'm going to give you benchmarks of things based off of what he knew, because he grew up in the company as well. And so long as you achieve these things, I want you to email me a week before we're scheduled to meet. And so long as you have accomplished them, we will continue. So that's how I got creative, by means of knowing I was so committed and dedicated to this grand scheme of, well, true vision is what it was that Brandon had created for Audigy Group. And I wanted to be a part of that. So through that, I made my way into the strategic business unit. I worked all through various capacities and roles within that. And then, you know, believe it or not, there was a story, if you attend, and when you attend a 10X 360, if you hear me talk through the R3 presentation, you'll hear about my interview experience with Brandon. And I actually ended up going for a position against my current supervisor, in which he held me back from and didn't think I was ready. So it was in that pivotal moment. And I like to bring this up because it's very, very critical. All of you as leaders, key stakeholders, or even if you're an individual contributor as an employee, you have a choice, and you get to dictate your future. And you are always going to be presented with opportunities that either hold you back, where your chest gets tight and you just want to wave the flag and give up, or continue to push through. So it was in that moment where I thought I was ready for something. However, Brandon, he just didn't think I was there yet, or till this day now I come to find out he had other plans. So ended up moving my way through. I didn't get that position, but that was because he intended to pull me over to our next consulting, I guess you can say, endeavor, which was in the dental space. And then from here we are today at Cardone Ventures. So one other thing I need to also make clear is this woman here was still is one of my greatest mentors, which helped demonstrate to me what true hard work and ethic looked like. And I want to pass it over to you, Heather, because I know you also have your own story, which has always been an inspiration to me.
Oh my gosh. Can we give it up for Candice? I'm going to tell you, that journey is amazing. I mean, seriously, give it up for her, because one of the things about Brandon, and thank you for your kind words, by the way. I'm a little bit set back by those. Yeah, my if you know R3, my stabilizer's on fire. But anyway.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but with Brandon, what we're really talking about is like this leadership, this growth. You know, Brandon understood what he saw in Candice at that time and knew to hold her back from the opportunity because she wasn't quite ready, and because he wanted to see if she'd persevere. And this is because the reason he made that decision was because he'd gone through his own perseverance. And this is something that we call the difference between a me leader and a we leader. And the point of that is that you cannot lead others if you do not lead yourself first. And so he has gone through many trials and tribulations over the course of his, number of decades in business. He's fallen on his face. He's scraped up his knees, as I like to call it. And he has learned what it truly takes to lead himself, how to control his reactions, how he's thinking, how he's responding to things. And then in turn, translate that and inspire those around him. Yeah. Now, inspiration is not just rah-rah. As you can see, she's inspired. She's been around for over 10 years. And the inspiration comes in the form of holding her accountable, challenging her, and what we call stretching a rubber band. I'm the same way. Just so you guys know, my story is just 13 years with Brandon. Same type of scenario. Came in as a coordinator, been through 8 different positions, multiple bosses, multiple companies, and Brandon keeping us back. I'm included in that in times where I thought I was ready. Yeah, seriously, thank you, Brandon. When, I wasn't quite ready for what I needed, although the belief lid was high. But he has challenged us more and more. How many of you out there would like to be the kind of leader, put it in the chat as a 10X, would be the kind of leader that has employees for 10, 13 years that want to do nothing but impact your business at the highest level of impact? Absolutely. Yep. I'm here to tell you it's absolutely possible, but it definitely starts with you. And it starts all up here. This is something that Brandon teaches us all of the time, is it starts with your mind. We are going to teach you about this. Last week, they talked about strategic planning. This week, we're talking about, I know that was a very specific increase in cash flow, but truly, honestly, if it starts here with your B leadership and you can lead others through we leadership, your revenue will absolutely increase. Cardone Ventures is an absolute example of that. We've gone from 0 to 75 million in 3 years. I mean, if that's not a testament, I don't know what is. And 120 employees by the next couple of weeks, which is blowing my mind.
Oh, gosh, it's insane. We went from this empty office to now we're bursting at the seams. So.
By the way, all of you should have received, I don't know if you received this or not, but if you didn't, there's an activity sheet. There's a QR code up on the screen right now. We want to go through this activity worksheet with all of you. So if you want to scan that QR code and download this worksheet, this fillable PDF, we want to talk through it, because this particular worksheet is something, it's a very, very critical lesson that Brandon has instilled in all of us around controlling the mindset, your belief and thoughts and reactions. So let's get you guys, we'll leave it up for just a few more seconds here to make sure everyone snaps a photo of that, or not snaps a photo. That's not what you do with a QR code. Yeah, put your photo app up and download it, please, because we definitely want you to see what that worksheet, download that worksheet so we can talk through it. All right, so now with that, the concept here that we want to go through on this worksheet is all about controlling your reality. And what that simply—
Those are strong words.
Okay, I know, you're right.
Those are really strong words. I want everyone should write that down. Yeah. And you should write it down in the form of a question. How am I controlling my reality, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And let's just think about it for a second, because we know, you and I both know that, and this is something we talk about actually quite often, because we've obviously been friends as well as coworkers for a number of years. Life is legitimately, and this is a quote by Charles Swindoll, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Yep.
And the only thing you can control in life is how you react to things, how you think, react, respond. This is why Brandon says, what you think
is what you say. What you say is what you do, and what you do becomes your legacy.
We might have heard that a few times, but we also really do believe it. And so the understanding of leadership is that if you can't master what's on this worksheet and understanding your thoughts, your reactions, and how you are dictating yourself in an environment, then how can you ever imagine being able to lead others? And so I think it'd be really cool, Candice, if we were to go through each one of these individual questions and kind of give them some tips and tricks on how we would answer some of these.
I love that.
And then also, we would love it if you guys want to raise your hands and ask questions. We're happy to stop, give additional context. Definitely can make that happen for you guys.
I think it'd be great too if you all get your responses ready as we're going down and sharing ours. Write your own in here, because hearing from you all is going to do two things. One, it'll give us insight as to how you're answering this, but naturally, this is how we shake the oil to the surface, if you will, right? You self-reflecting, as much as all of us think we do, I don't think we truly do that.
No, I agree.
It's almost like an afterthought. Oh yeah, I thought about X, Y, and Z today, but did you really? Like, what did you take from that thought, in which is going to help direct change and how you respond to it?
100%. Back to what you said. 100%, because if you are not constantly in reflection, then you cannot improve anything. And I will tell you that this is a lifelong endeavor. You might as well just buckle up and just know that this has no ceiling. Leadership, development, you're going to face new challenges, new complexities, new people. People will bring you, what do they call them, curveballs, and you will, and it's going to be a whole new way of thinking to things. But to your point, this is something that I practice, and I want to have a ton of integrity here. Probably 95% of my life I spend every single night before I'm going to bed thinking about my interactions during that day and what happened, how it made me feel, And then I take responsibility for how I made myself feel and then figure out if I need to like correct something the next day. And if I do, I correct it as soon as I possibly can, take full responsibility, try not to point any fingers, because my mom taught me that for every finger you point, there's 3 pointing back at you. So you got to come up with 3 reasons why it was your fault before you actually, it's somebody else's fault. But anyway.
What you just, by the way, described is we leadership. So we're going to try and, as we give examples, be able to highlight those specific things so that you can resonate with any of these concepts that might be new to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we'll go through a couple of these and then I see a couple hands up. So we'll definitely, oh, I see Miriam.
Hello,
I'll get
Miriam.
to Alex. We'll get you guys. All right, you guys. So on this worksheet, for those of you who maybe didn't get a chance to download it, one of the first questions says, rather than focusing on your struggles, where do you see your greatest areas of opportunity? Can you just talk about like why, like just the context of struggle and opportunity and where people tend to focus their energy?
Absolutely. People tend to focus their energy on what, I guess you can say, demands our energy first, which is a problem or a barrier has arisen, and it requires us to then stop, and it puts a screeching halt onto most things that we're doing outside of that. And where I feel like the biggest way most of us fail, just naturally so as humans, is we dial in on what the problem is versus how that translates into an opportunity. And, you know, I speak about this to my teams all the time. I even check myself on this because in times of distress, in times of those curveballs we get thrown and we weren't expecting them to come, it's all in how we have our natural response mechanisms to something, but then how are we choosing to engage with that? So I would say for me, that's what I see and identify with the most, not just internally with us and our teams, but you all as well, because we work hand in hand with you all, especially through the strategic business unit.
Yeah.
And so no one's alone here, right?
No,
I think that's fair to say.
All of us are in the same boat, because I'm glad you said that. It's like we might have worked together for a while. Because the segue to this is the reason that we typically focus on problems and struggles rather than opportunities as human beings is because guess what? We're all naturally hardwired that way. That is how we are programmed, is to think, hey, I'm the center of the universe. All of things need to be revolving around my thoughts, my feelings. My feet are tired. You know, this person driving in front of me in the left lane going slow and the speed limit, which is fine for them, but is horrible for me. That's a problem for me. But you know, that's how we are all hardwired. So by the way, just know that about yourself. So you give yourself the permission that sometimes that's going to happen. But the fact is that now that you know that, you've learned it, you can't unlearn it. And now it's your responsibility to do something about it. So
I think a good example, I mean, talk them through when the epidemic happened, right? Like, how did we respond as an organization? Obviously, that presented itself as a wedge that no one really predicted or prepared for. And how did we respond to that as an organization?
So when the pandemic happened, you know, we were a fairly new company. We were in our first full year of operation. There were 8 of us. And it was a really scary time because we were just getting some momentum. I mean, truly, honestly, just came off a GrowthCon with Grant Cardone, Brandon's first speaking engagement. He spoke at GrowthCon, which was a goal of his. And we had so much momentum and then literally a screeching halt. But this is what I love about Brandon's leadership, is that when the going gets tough, he's like, look, we're going to get tougher. And he did not placate to the distractions, the noise, the things that were going on. He said, instead, we're going to seize on this opportunity while everyone else is playing scared. We're going to take the opportunity to succeed. He did not cut anyone. He is, of course, if you have not read his book, Emergency Business Response,
yes, let's
someone
put that
throw
in
it in the chat because it's a free download. It is a fantastic book. There, I see someone has it up in the, yes, I love that. And it has a step-by-step playbook of how to succeed during times of crisis and emergency. And as an example, we already had cash reserves in play. So therefore he told us, he had a team meeting. A lot of you have heard this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. He had a team meeting and he told all of us, all right, here are the numbers, because we always knows the numbers. That's something that's really important for a business owner. Know your numbers. And he told us $250,000 is our watermark. We are all now officially on the sales team. It's all of our jobs to sell and to make sure that we hit that $250,000 mark. If we go below that revenue mark at any month, then what happens is we'll take from cash reserves. And once we're out of that, then what would happen is we would end up reducing salaries commensurate to how much we were under the watermark. And the fact of the matter is, we never even got close to hitting the bottom of our watermark, meaning that next month we hit 400K.
We had our record months.
Well, a couple months later, we ended up having record months, and we just all dug deep and said, what can we do to serve? This is when 10X Owners Live was born. This is when a couple of other, the virtual side of things, we just took full advantage of. Everyone was at home. We made content. Like, how can we help business owners with their mindset, this worksheet, understand there's opportunity here?
10X Owners Live, when it asked what was one of your greatest areas of opportunity, we were so event heavy and driven in person. So when that was stripped away, we had to figure out, okay, where's our biggest opportunity now? And that's where things like this are born. And so this is, oftentimes when we're in distress, we can choose to pull out the best version of ourselves if you're willing to look past the noise you were talking about.
I love that. I love it. It's so good. I want to, before we move on to another one, I'd love to take a question. I'd love to get Miriam and Alex unmuted and bring them up. We have not talked to you guys in so long.
Where have you been? I used to see you every weekend.
We're conquering the game. We're here.
Yeah,
we are conquering the game.
Yes, you are conquering the game. I see your TikToks. I know what's going on here. Well, what's going on? Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
So
my name is Alexander Zastapel. We're the owners of Clear and Conquer. This is Miriam Ali Zastapel. We have a big pitch coming up, so we actually have a really great question for that.
So we would love to hear it.
So this is very exciting for us. So basically, it's a proposal I'm going to a company for, and it is the first time I go into a meeting, which is supposed to be a proposal. And they are bringing the legal department, the training department, and the executive team into the meeting. So my question to you is, what could be some of the common questions I will be expecting from the legal team before we proceed with the deal?
From the legal team? Well, let me ask you this. What's the company do? What service are you going to be providing them that you're doing as a proposal?
So we are proposing, so we're Grant Cardone licensees. So what we're doing is that we're going to be introducing the idea of 10X. It is actually a company based in Abu Dhabi, in the capital of the United Arab Emirates. They are doing oil and gas, and they are expecting us. They want our help in spreading 10X as a culture in the company.
Gotcha.
That's exciting.
It's really exciting. You guys always do amazing on all of your pitches, by the way. So honestly, from a legal standpoint, this is one thing Brandon always says, we don't want to give bad advice. Like, I don't know exactly what the company structure is, what legal questions they would be asking you. Do you guys have an attorney that you could seek guidance and advice from that represents you?
We do. We actually do.
Yeah, I mean, you might just ask for their perspective, right? Because they're going to give those types of technical questions, unless you have some feedback.
Well, I'm just thinking, peeling away from any level of due diligence, it's also looking deep into what is their mission and vision as an organization, what are their pain points, and how does 10X and how does your mission and vision tie into and relate? Because that cross synergy and collaboration, that's where people connect. And regardless of all the legal stuff, there's always going to be red tape, boards to push through, all of that, all of the noise. I mean, it takes forever to close on some of those things. In that, though, your ability to create connection and value are, in my perspective, the two biggest things. That's what sells me straight out of the gate. What can I resonate with, and what are you going to provide me that I'm seeking a solution for? So having clarity into that and just speaking with absolute conviction and passion, that would be my directionality on that.
Yeah, well, and not to mention, you're bringing the value that you're going to bring to the organization. Brandon got Grant's attention with one simple question, and all he said was, "Hey, if I could add an extra B to the end of your net worth, would you be interested in learning more?" And the fact of the matter is, your worth, your value that you bring with the 10X movement and all of the content that comes with that. And so just make sure that you've got execs, you've got a training department, which, by the way, that speaks to my heart because, I love content and training and learning. And so it's basically value that you're going to bring is in what I would imagine is the inspiration and development of the people of the organization. Because like Candice said, businesses don't move people, people move the business. And so your overall pitch, right? But basically your value proposition is how you're going to instill that inspiration and discipline and accountability and transparency into the organization, which ultimately results in these individuals being more engaged and aligned with the mission and vision of the organization, which you should know going into this. And then what happens is everybody's performance increases because they want to be there. They're helping the company achieve its goals. And honestly, we talk about personal, professional, financial goal alignment all the time. You know, you guys bringing that to the table and helping that organization and their leadership align their team members' personal, professional, and financial goals to the objectives of the business. That is where the magic happens, right? That's where it happens. So this is going to be. Are you guys coming to our scale and leadership execution workshop at the end of the month?
Actually, I will be. Yes.
Where are you, Miriam? Where are you?
We are in Miami.
Yeah, we're in Miami right now.
But no. Where are you at the end of the month?
Me?
Yeah, why aren't you coming?
The scaling workshop.
I could be there.
Well, I think you should be there.
Because I've done it. I mean, there is no harm doing it. I mean, it's always, oh my God, the Cardone Ventures team, I cannot even start to say or mention how much, okay, let's put it this way. We pulled 5 years forward. Like not on in terms of like generating revenue. I'm talking about experience. I'm talking about confidence. I'm talking about like when we go and talk to people about certain ideas and would say, what would Brandon Dawson say? You know, so it is already embedded in us. So even if we go ahead to more than the same workshop a few times, that actually adds so much value. The 360, we're gonna do it for the 3rd time this year. It's an absolute like it's something that, see, sometimes I don't lose my words.
It's okay. It's transformative. We got you. It's transformative.
Well, and we have a treat for you too, because this is, what's the name of the workshop, Heather?
Well, just so you know, it's a scaling workshop, but we've actually enhanced it. It's the scaling and leadership workshop.
Yes.
So Alex, you are going to be in for a total treat. And I know you're going to get Miriam to come along with you. But in Florida at the end of this month, what we're basically doing here is we are helping individuals scale their leadership. And this comes down to understanding, first and foremost, there's something that I think everyone needs to remember, and what Miriam is basically talking about is you don't know what you don't know. You know what you don't know, and you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. And can you imagine if you could look into a crystal ball and all of a sudden see the things that you didn't know and be able to close the gaps that you didn't realize you had? So this particular workshop is designed to, number one, let's look into the crystal ball and let's look internally at our leadership and understand how we're thinking and doing. How are we actually operating in our world, and how are we influencing? Like Candice said, leadership is influence. How are we influencing and removing barriers for team members? Or even if you don't have team members, by the way, like Miriam, Alex, right? Like you guys, how are you removing barriers for your clients, your potential clients? Yeah. Those are the things that you need to understand, and you don't know what you don't know till you get there. We're also going to talk through the process of coaching. It's a very specific concept that we have called Tell Me, Show Me, Let Me, Coach Me. We're going to move through our 4 Ps, which are always transformative. Oh. There's a lot of content over the course of these 2 days. It's a very, very robust 2 days. So,
I have an idea.
What?
This is a little untraditional, but we're an untraditional bunch.
I don't know what she's going to say. I don't claim whatever.
Should we show them the video?
What video? We have a video?
Yeah.
We have a promo video? Just kidding, we do. Let's do it.
I think we should roll it.
Let's watch the video.
Hot off the press.
If you want to blow your business up and scale, you got to come down. The stuff you learn, it's you can't put a price on it.
We're ready to start scaling. So we've grown the business 10x already, literally, from 800,000 to 8 million. Now it's time to take that 8 million to 80 million.
I'm here to learn from Brandon Dawson how to scale and shortening my time of learning all the pitfalls that he's already done.
Now I know the difference between scale and scaling. Well, I thought I needed to do the scaling, but after coming here, I realized I need to do more of the scale. They outline for you everything you need to do as far as marketing, your processes, who to hire, just every piece of it to take you to your next level and your next level and then the next one and the next one.
So we're a brand new startup type of business. So we're here to really lay that foundation so we avoid those mistakes that other startups make so we can actually be around in a couple years.
And I'm here to scale myself, but also scale my business. We're launching a franchise, so I'm here to build myself, my self-growth and personal growth, and then the business as well.
Oh man, so good.
Love it.
I love this
it.
workshop.
All right. Well, both of you, thank you. And we will keep your seats warm. Don't you worry. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you
Thank you so much. And tomorrow, by the way, that pitch is tomorrow. So it's gonna be it's gonna be at 5:30 Miami time tomorrow morning AM. So by the round table, we'll have some good news.
Yes, you celebrate that win. We'll call you up first thing. Get that hand up. All right, you guys. Good luck. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. All right, should we continue on with the worksheet?
Yes, and then we'll also pepper in, I see more hands raised.
All right,
so the next one we have here, this really speaks to how we remind ourselves in moments of conflict to focus on humility and how to speak or seek wisdom rather than us always feeling like we need to be right.
I know. So guilty. I am guilty. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Like I just have this this genetic makeup. Although it doesn't mean that it's an excuse, but like being right is something I love to be.
I like to be right too.
I know we do. However, it's not necessarily the best way to handle all the situations is to force that you're right. And so like I would even say like even for me, man, moments of conflict, I'll tell you what, whenever if I'm in control of my me leadership in the moment, I'll know that I'm going to this conflict place of just wanting to be right with it's kind of a feeling like it's like a pit in my stomach or a knot in my throat, or just I feel anxious or just I want to cut people off. Like I have to, that's an indicator. Like I have learned, and this is something, again, it's very intentional, creating intentional focus. Learn when you are doing that to recognize it and to not let it overtake you. Like, okay, it's happening. Stop, take a deep breath, pull back. It's not a big deal. At the end of the day, no one's going to die.
Right.
Like,
well, and we
I'm
all,
not right.
we use this term called the basement for those of you who are familiar with R3. We are all at, whether it's during the day, each week, it's going to happen because if the world was right and everything was butterflies and rainbows, then I mean, gosh, I can't even imagine. That would be quite boring, really.
It'd be really boring, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably find some way to create opportunity through, who knows?
Yeah, but how do you what's your natural response in those situations, and how do you get yourself out of it?
I am so quick to think and act, and that has been actually one of my biggest areas of opportunity and growth. I can remember thinking all the way back to my first few years in Audigy, and it wasn't coming from a bad place. It was coming from a place of I wanted to increase the confidence in my peers. I wanted to increase the confidence of those whom I was reporting to. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted clients to trust me. But really, in self-reflection, I was making it all about me versus just taking a moment to stop, just to stop. And so when you find yourself wanting to tensing up or getting that knot in your stomach, like you said, that should be a leading indicator of pump the brakes and just give yourself a moment, because true humility, I do feel like, doesn't need to come in words. It requires you actively listening to the situation or the person that is in front of you.
Yeah.
And so that has really transformed the way that I react and respond, especially under stress and pressure. And being able to express that humility by listening to people and asking great questions too.
I'm with you.
Allowing yourself to think and then come up with those quality questions that Brandon always talks about. That has been,
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
So what she's referring to is that Brandon likes to say the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your outcomes or the quality of your results. And I think that you nailed it with the humility side. Is practicing humility is knowing that you're not always the smartest person in the room. And quite honestly, that's the best way to think, because you want to surround yourself with not peepers, do not surround yourself with peepers, but with people who can think big and who can bring solutions to the table, because it's in that collaboration, which is the new currency, where the best ideas are formed. You know, no great thing was ever built by just one person. Grant says that all the time. Like, good luck finding a large organization that's wildly successful that's built by one individual. It's just not out there. And so having the humility, and this is where as a leader, it's just so important to check yourself.
Well, and usually when there's conflict, regardless of at what level, I find, let's just like reflect on Cardone Ventures, regardless of whether it's opportunities with clients or internal processes, when conflict arises, that means there's misinformed, people are misinformed, they aren't understanding, and so that presents an opportunity for clarity to be provided, or something broke, and that's okay too. But unless you're willing to express humility and listen and truly get all the data and ask the right questions to understand why that situation even occurred, you're really doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your teams a disservice, and at the end of the day, we're all working towards our greater missions individually, which is why we're putting our blood, sweat, and tears into our businesses, which is to help those that we serve.
Love that. So what I hear you saying is ask questions with the intent to actually learn. That's what I'm hearing.
Write that down, folks. That was a golden nugget.
Ask questions with the intent
yes.
to actually learn, not just be heard.
Yes.
That's so important. So important. I love it. Do you want to do another question?
Yes, let's
do
it.
Who's in the upper first box? I think she was on the pre-show. I have bad eyes. Like I'm like Brandon. Like I'm like,
I have eyes, but there's no name.
You have eyes?
I have eyes that work, I think. But you are right. This is hard. I usually give Brandon a hard time, but I can't see either.
What?
Marisa?
Marisa. Oh, I recognize you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Why don't you? I know you were on the pre-show, I believe, but can you introduce yourself so everyone can know who you are?
Sure. So my name is Maritza. I run a digital marketing agency. We've been scaling massively. So as everyone else, having people problems. One of the wins that I had last time was that I went back. First thing I did was PPF goals with one of my very, very smart, talented employees that was kind of a little wishy-washy. That got him on board. He turned into like the best employee, but I'm starting to see, what did she say? What somebody else used, like the wind in the sails kind of start to fall down. And obviously, like, I don't want to harp on him. I don't want to, mother him or anything like that, but I'm just kind of wondering, how do I keep him engaged? I thought I was doing all the right things, like encouraging him. Every time he did something great, giving him lots of props, all of those types of things. But I'm seeing things like just small things like not checking in at the end of the day with the tests that were completed, or showing up late. It's remote too, so that also doesn't help. But so how do I keep him engaged, motivated?
Got you. Just so you know, you're not alone.
Not at all.
Because we all have people. We all have people problems. If we have one employee or we have 1,000. But as somebody over here to my right, your left, I think that's how that works. I don't know if it's you, who manages the largest department in our organization. I think you'd be great to answer this.
Yes. So I always tie everything back at the end of the day to our core values. And I know that we talk about mission, vision, values all of the time. For those of you who are in our ecosystem and have been for a while, it couldn't be more true. Your core values are the framework, that is the brick and mortar pillars of what you're building your entire business upon, whether that be internal engagements with each other, whether it be engagements with your clients. Everything you hire, fire, and reward based off of your core values. So if you have an individual who is repeatedly demonstrating the same actions that are not correcting themselves, obviously there's the performance improvement process, but I would just take a step back and understand how and if their PPFs are tied to the goals of that through the organization. Because what I've found, and I've even found myself subject to this, if they don't have clarity as to all the hard work they're putting into that, not just how it translates into what they can receive, but how they're contributing to what you're growing and building. Most times people are just seeking a validation. They want to be recognized. And so I hear you saying that you did that and you've had the PPF conversations. So, quite frankly, if you've put all of those motions in place, going through the disciplinary action might be the thing. And you can't ever force someone to want to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. And there's the skill versus will components. So if they have the skill and they're getting their work done, maybe timelines aren't getting met, do they have the will to want to show up and demonstrate the expectations that you say you've clearly set? And if they don't want to, you can't force someone to want something. They have to want it themselves too.
Yeah, it's really similar. It's like you can't coach heart.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, I don't know how many of you played sports, but I played volleyball, and in volleyball, in order to be really good, you got to throw your body at the ground inside on a gym floor in order to get the ball up.
Sounds terrible.
And you learn like, well, you learn the technique, you learn how to not hurt yourself, you learn how to hit the floor at the right angle, and it actually, and then roll out of it. It actually doesn't hurt when you do it the right way. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in the game, when the moment's happening and you got to actually exert that effort. If, you know, my coaches have set me up for success, but I just don't do it. It's a heart thing. You can't coach someone, you know, to be able to throw their body at the floor. They got to want to do it. But that's because it's tied back to something bigger, winning the game, achieving goals. Now, what she said is really important here. If you've done everything, Marissa, that you can to set this person up for success, you've given them all the tools and resources, you've been there for them, you've aligned their goals to the goals of the organization, you've one-on-ones, you have, you know, you've listened to them, you know, with any kind of, you know, if they have any problems they want solved, and they're bringing like solutions to the table, and you're hearing them out, those types of things. If you've done all of that stuff, then she's absolutely right. It might be time to put them on some sort of a disciplinary track, which is, you know, you had your reset conversation. Now you might have to move to like a warning. If you have metrics in place, you've had them in place, you've been measuring them, and their success, something's just not being met. Void of that, though, you don't have accountability. You can't hold them accountable to anything if you don't have metrics. Do you have metrics in place for them?
We did put metrics in place. The problem is inconsistency. Like, there's Saturdays when he's like, hey, do you have something for me to do? I'd like to work some extra hours. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I've got stuff for you to do. But then on a Tuesday, we'll, you know, show up midday. Again, it's remote. So on a Tuesday, won't hear from him till like midday. So it's just, there's a lot. And then.
Sounds like this person, it's clear expectations with structure. A lot, like if this person wants to work on Saturday, that's fantastic. What is that structure? Like here at our headquarters in Scottsdale, our operating hours are 8:30 to 5:30.
Even though they're not paid hourly, by the way.
Yeah, 8:30 to 5:30. Everyone is here. Everyone shows up, and that's it. Those are the expectations, and it's to the extent you make those expectations, and then if needed, go through the disciplinary process. And I love who put in the chat. Basically what Heather just outlined is teamwork. So if you don't have Dawson's teamwork book, I highly encourage you to go on Amazon. If you guys could put that link in the chat for everyone here. She peels back the layers. Everything that you're experiencing, I'm sure you could read that book in an evening, and the amount of clarity, because as much as Heather and I could probably spend the next 4 hours with all of you on the call, this is probably something that needs to go. If you're serious about wanting to make that employee or help that employee succeed, it's being transparent, having an open conversation and saying, this needs to change. Otherwise, I'm going to need to look for others who are willing to fully commit, dedicate themselves, and be able to present that through their ability to exemplify our core values.
Yeah. It's a tough conversation, Marissa, but it's one of these. That's why we say hire slow, fire fast. And that's why you have core values. When people violate them, we just don't have room for it, because there's lots of other people out there who want to contribute, and then you will not feel this way because you got people who are contributing, Marissa.
Thank you, ladies.
Of course.
All right, let's keep moving here, because I know we're going to run out of time otherwise, because we are blabbers.
Minus.
I know. Let's go on to that one.
All right, instead of focusing on other people's actions holding you back, how will you focus on finding someone who contributes to your
This is literally your question, Marissa.
This is your question. We just covered it. Do you have anything else to add to that, though?
Well, I want to just make this, you know, yes, the teamwork book will absolutely outline this for you. But the definition of leadership from Brandon Dawson is making others' success easy. And this, if you want to remain pragmatic in your we leadership as well as like control your me leadership, like how you respond and react to things and not make it emotional, because really the only emotion that deserves, or no, wow, let me start over. The only emotion that should exist in business is that of celebration.
I need a party popper, so every time we say that,
pop, celebration. But the rest of it, the rest of the junk, just we really do have to let that go. But the fact of the matter is that you need to set up the expectations, and that means making sure that yes, you've got your PPF goals, you've got your mission, your vision, your values, you've got your PPF goals in place. You also have the expectations around attendance and what that looks like from their contribution standpoint, and how are you measuring their effectiveness. Void of any of that, and you do not have all the elements you need to remain pragmatic and truly hold people accountable. You know, it really will come back down to a he said, she said, when you don't have certain elements in place. And if you're not continuously being transparent and communicating about that, then it's really hard to hold people accountable.
And when you look at the stats, I always think back, because Brandon will throw these things out and we use them all the time, but they're so true. It's his 80-20 rule, where you should be focusing and putting 80% of your time into the people who are showing up, who are creating results and outcomes, who are demonstrating that they're aligned, versus letting this other chaos, or what is considered to be a distraction, suck up all your time and energy. And it's that other 20% of people who aren't rising to the occasion, willing to work and push through things. That's where you have the 80% of those that are doing phenomenal, proving they're top performers. That's where the duplication process comes into play as well. So we've spoke a lot about me versus we leadership. That's where the true duplication process, I feel like, you know, really kicks in.
Yep, 100%.
And then also it's all 2/3 of employees are disengaged.
Or actively disengaged.
Thank you, from the organization. So your true goal is to have between 50 and 70% of your employees PPFs aligned with that of the organization, and be okay with knowing you're not always going to have them all. I mean, that's just the name of the game.
So we have, I don't know if you guys know who John Maxwell is. He's the #1 leadership guru in the world. He's written 83 books on leadership. He's an absolute stud. Love this man. He's been Brandon's mentor.
Oh, he would love that.
I know he
Let's
would.
send this clip to John.
He's been Brandon's mentor for, you know, the better part of over a decade, if not longer. And, you know, he came and did one of our masterminds back in February and said one of the most impactful things I've ever heard about, like, letting people go that don't actually fit into your ecosystem and aren't contributing, which is, you know, he says he gets asked a lot, what's a good turnover percentage? Like, what should we be aiming for, keeping it below, so on and so forth. And he says to everyone, you should not even be worrying about any kind of turnover rate. Like, what you should be worrying about is when you should actually be worrying about having a revolving door. It needs to be revolving, because as you grow and scale, there's different levels of contribution that you need to have in the organization. And what I mean by that is that he measures everything on a scale of like 1 to 10 when it comes to leadership and influence. Lid is high at a 10. You're unbelievable contributor, you're operationally effective, your belief is high, great leader. 1 is obviously low on that scale. And he said, what you need to be concerned about when you look at that revolving door is if you've got 7s and 8s going out and 2s and 3s coming in, you got a problem. You're not going to end up scaling through the breakpoints. You're going to end up probably breaking and going into a decline, if not, you know, going out of business, because you're not getting the right kinds of people in there that are going to help you grow and scale. So what you want to be focusing on is, hey, 2s and 3s going out, 7s and 8s coming in. Now that's what we want with our revolving door. And it's just a completely different perspective on when it comes to, you know, letting people go who aren't a fit for the organization. If they're not contributing at their highest level of impact, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, maybe they're not happy, guys. Maybe they're not happy doing what they're doing for you. Why suffer? I really believe suffering can be a choice. And so why continue the suffering? It's like, go find your happiness. We're going to go find someone who will find happiness here. It's a win-win. Make that happen quickly. Do not dwell on it. I won't say #1, but one of the top reasons that business owners fail with people is that they hold on to these people for too long. And like she said, they focus 80% of their efforts on the bottom 20% of their people, when in fact, the top 20% of your people are responsible for 80% of your success. You need to be focusing your time, energy, and effort on the top 20%, incrementally making them better, which is what we are teaching at that Scaling and Leadership Execution Workshop. That's the coaching process, the incremental improvement of the best practices, repeating successful actions, coaching through one-on-ones. This is what's happening at the end of this month. And Yes, you can also download the worksheet right now with the QR code, or
you can
we
come
go to the
hang out with us.
Oh, it's great.
And I do think,
I
Heather,
think it'd
we
be
only
awesome.
have probably at this point, because I know the sales team has been actually telling us seats are limited. So we only had 10 seats at the beginning of this call, actually, and that is dwindling quickly. So I would encourage each and every one of you, scan that QR code, make sure you get your spot in there. For a 2-day workshop at a $5,000 investment, I would very much so encourage you all to think back and challenge yourselves on what was the last thing you invested in relative to yourself as it also applied to the business. And if the answer is within the last 6 months, anything, then this is your ticket right here. And if you have leaders or key stakeholders, bring them too.
100%.
Bring them too. You'll be creating a 180-day plan. When you walk out of here, you'll have full clarity on what are the top 3 to 5 things you can go home, implement, and then be able to capitalize on that investment with a substantial return.
I would agree with that, because, and this is the adult learner and like geek in me, but like just know that when you go by yourself to this kinds of stuff, you're only going to retain about 30 to 50% of what you hear, and going back and then and any kind of like next level inspiration you have, like trying to translate that to someone. Like if I come back and, you know, I'm a high influencer, she's not, and I come back and she's in the grind trying to do stuff, and I'm trying to explain to her how awesome this was, and she's like, look, I got so much going on right now.
Like, that's great, you had a good time. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you don't understand, this is going to be amazing. She's like, okay, sounds good. But you know, nothing ever really happens. So definitely encourage you guys to bring someone. It'll be important. Let's do one more question, then we'll do the last one here, and then we'll go back to another question. Does that sound good? Oh, Sherman Rowland. Let's go, Sherman, as Brandon would say.
Hi there, guys.
Go, Sherman.
I really do think you guys should do a podcast.
I knew Sherman was going to say.
You're the best.
I think that would be,
We
you
adore
got
you.
so much, and that'd be great for people to be, you know, getting more knowledge. So I have 2 questions. When I think about this intentional focus and creating reality, how important is also producing clarity in people's roles? Because you've talked about metrics, and I think about our team, and I know when they start feeling like they're off, I think there's a level of confusion which is lacking from the role descriptions and things that Candice, I know we will do in SBU.
It's like you read my mind without telepathically.
Yes, John, as John's on the call too, I'm like, yes, we know that's going to help us. What component of that, like how much does that play into people being able to stay centered in their role versus kind of bouncing around?
I love your question, Sherman, because in moments of confusion, right, which will lead to failure, we all, that's something, again, Brandon says, lack of clarity equals confusion, confusion equals failure. This is where we bring process, documentation into play. Yes, to answer your question, clarity in roles, swim lanes, people's expectations around what they contribute to versus what they shouldn't. They don't need to be going the extra mile unless, you know, we've talked about it. But whenever there's areas of conflict amongst the team or there's lack of clarity, the first question you have to ask yourself as a leader is, do I have process in place to clearly define what somebody's expected to do? And if the answer is no, look, write down a process, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It's as simple as, this is why we need this process. Here's my commitment, is to making you successful. Your commitment back to me needs to be that you're going to step in and do all these steps that I'm going to outline, and you're going to let me know if you need assistance along the way. And then list the execution steps, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that. I mean, 5 to 7 steps is a process, right? Sometimes even 3 to 4 steps is a process. But and then have a measurable outcome. How do we measure the success of this process? And then assign somebody to it. It literally is in that technical setup that you eliminate all that negative emotion around people having all that confusion. Like literally, whenever my team has that moment of contention, I'm like, is there a process? And I tell you what, 99.999%.
I just walked through this today.
There's no process, and we have to do it in the moment.
There's a process, and I have to let you all know, your teams need to grow to trust you as well. They need to grow to trust that the processes you put in place were put in place for a reason, but then they also need that equal opportunity to provide feedback if a process for some reason isn't working. A little bit opposite of a situation we just went through today as a group with a certain situation is we worked backwards. Here's the barrier we're running against. So then go back to the process that we originally were executing upon, And boom, there you go. Breakdown, missteps in the process. And it doesn't become this I told you so opportunity. It becomes a growth moment and really should exude more confidence and them instilling faith in knowing there's a reason for this. It's not just to create more work or to tell you how to do what you're a subject matter expert in. It's to set you up for success. And if we need to optimize along the way, fantastic, but it will all go back to the outcomes, which is those metrics that you're talking about, Roll.
Yep. That's good. Thank you.
Sherman, what's your other question?
We're kind of good. I think it's being longer. I'm going to do that tomorrow at the round table.
Okay, copy that. Well, you put that hand up, we'll call on you. You're the best. Thanks,
Thank
Sherman.
you.
All right, let's get to the last one, then we'll get to like 2 more questions, then we'll be good.
How to keep yourself accountable to your thoughts, words, and actions. How to keep them in check, really. So rather than focusing on things outside of your control. This is my favorite question on this sheet.
Tell me why.
There are so many things outside of our control. So many things, personally or professionally, there's just a lot. And as much as I like to have a magic wand, I haven't found one. If you all know where I can purchase one, let me know. It is just reality. And so being accepting of that and truly dissecting and providing that diagnosis of why am I in this situation? And here's the things that I know, they just are, but then here are the things that I can actually influence and make an impact through. Again, this is my biggest growth opportunities that I am very intentional about each and every day, because when you're working inside your businesses, especially at a fast pace, such as what we are, things come up every single day, every single, I would say, hour.
Oh yeah.
So it's really being able to turn something where most would see it as chaotic or but most people would just let it control and take leverage over their entire day. See it as, okay, we're going to just be solution oriented about this and push through it, because here's what we know we can impact and here's what we know we can't.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be straight with all of you. Like, this is definitely one of my biggest areas of growth. And in a moment like this, I have to absolutely remind myself that, like, I only have this present moment. I find myself worrying and getting anxious about things that have not happened. I make up scenarios in my head about what I think could happen or what that person was thinking, and therefore this situation is going to happen because this thing happened. And I end up in this, like, I don't want to underplay this, the word is a strong word, but panic. But I end up in this very anxious state, and it's detrimental. I can lose sleep over it. I'm creating a condition where I walk into the office the next day, and if it's lingering, it'll affect my mood. I have to be extremely conscious of this, and all of you have your own set of, I call them demons or whatever you want to call them, but you have your own set of ways that you would deal with something like this as well. But just I have to remind myself, like, at the end of the day, like, I only have what's happening right now. I can only control how I'm thinking and reacting right now. And most of the time when I'm at home thinking about this stuff, nothing, like, the other person I'm thinking about probably is having a great night. Like, they probably aren't even thinking about it. And whatever story I've made up in my head, which is always not even the truth, is like, that's not even happening. And it's just like
self-sabotage.
That's what it is. And so this is part of the me leadership, is like, just like, take a deep breath, calm down. It's like, I'm going to say this again, but no one's going to die. It's okay. We're not losing arms and legs. We're like, things are great. They're amazing. This is where gratefulness and gratitude actually does play a huge role. Like, look at what we have. This is incredible. Why am I ruining this present moment? The only moment I have right now, like what we just talked about 5 minutes ago, is done. Like, we only have right now. And it's like, live in this moment, like we're doing with all of you right now.
And 1 minute left already.
I know. Okay, I'll stop talking.
It's giving yourself permission to relinquish control.
You can't give
like
me a time limit and then keep talking.
Well, I just was trying to bookend because you did so well.
Let's get one more question.
One more question, and then let's figure out how we're all going to stay connected
I'll
as well.
let you pick someone.
All right. I
see.
spy with my little eye. Is that Scooter?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Fantastic. I could read.
Oh, Scotty.
Scotty? Oh, it's Scotty.
Scotty in the house.
Oh, Scotty.
Well, it's still Scooter.
It's like I
'cause
grabbed
he's got a bike shop, so kind of.
I saw the bikes in the background.
That's right. What's up,
You
Scotty
ladies
Scooter?
can call me Scooter, though. I don't let anybody call me Scooter, but I'll let you know.
And I know not to call you sir, so Scotty.
All right, what's up, Scotty?
My dad was sir. So thank you for calling on me, and it's great meeting you guys and seeing you guys. Sammy G says hi, Heather. Don't forget that.
Oh, hi, Sammy G.
That's just a standing thing, okay?
That's a standing thing.
That's a standing thing. So comment and a question. So on the last topic we were talking about, I think most of us spend so much time trying to figure out our people. One of the most beneficial things that I've learned from Brandon was about the leadership lid and how it took focusing on myself and growing myself before I could really, hire higher quality people and affect them in a way that was positive for them in their lives. But my question is, most of my team members are engaged. I feel like I don't have a lot of problems with them not being engaged. And we do our PPF meetings, and it's like they're doing great at work, but they're not making progress on their own goals. And this is frustrating for me. It almost feels like I'm failing them in a way, because it's like meeting after meeting, they haven't really started. It just, and of course they all tell me they work too much, and, but, what can I do to help them reach their goals a little bit more? I mean, maybe I'm not organized. I don't know what it is, but like, they're great as far as employees, but they're just not, in my view, reaching their goals. I'll turn it over to you ladies. Thanks again.
That's a good question. And it's almost a question back. Is it your job to help?
Ooh, she Twilight Zoned you.
To help them achieve their goals. So what role do you play in that?
Inspiration, number one, which is one of our core values. I stole it from you guys. So I feel like maybe I'm letting them down in that area. I don't know beyond that. I mean, I know I want it for them. I want, because I feel like their success and their goals, I can do this to myself. Maybe that's where that comes from. I don't know, but, I just keep trying to read, and, I try to be an example, keep hitting goals myself. But then if they're not, it just doesn't feel right,
Yeah, I can understand that. This is back to controlling what you can control. While, they are achieving whatever personal goals they currently have. I mean, it sounds to me like they have some, but what you really control is on the professional aspect. How are you helping them become better, not only operationally with what you do there at the shop, but also like culturally and how they're fitting in? Like, how are they seeing that their next level of growth with you is where they want to be? That's the thing you can control the most, is providing them the picture,
alignment,
creating the opportunity, and aligning them to that opportunity. Because maybe right now they aren't seeing how the professional side, the personal side ties to it, although we all know it does, right? But as they start to win with you professionally, some things in their personal life might start to present itself. This has happened with team members that I've had, where we have great professional goals and great financial goals, and then the personal ones is kind of lackluster, and they don't put a lot of effort in, or they're like, I'm not really sure. And you know what? I don't typically, I don't know how you operate with this, but I don't typically push too hard initially with that. I focus on the things that we can actually put time, energy, and effort into that is a win-win for all of us. The business wins, the clients are winning, they're winning, professionally. And in turn, that's the inspiration that starts to get spinning. And then the personal stuff, suddenly they've got ideas. Let them come to you with that.
Yeah, it floods over. It's not your responsibility from a personal aspect to be able to solve all their problems. What you can do, though, is paint a picture of reality of what success looks like as they're individually contributing to the success and growth of the company. And through that, I mean, it bleeds into the financial pieces, because a lot of folks' personal aspirations also tie into their ability to have the financial ability to fuel that. So if it's a vacation with family and all those different things. So I find most people, when they don't have goals that are actually important to them, that's when you find that misalignment, and they aren't bought in because they aren't bought into themselves. I used to be that person. I would just I hated writing my goals down. I'll be honest, because everyone else's goals were more important to me. I always came last. And it wasn't until Brandon challenged me and said, until you're the best version of yourself, how can you be the best version for others? And the best version of yourself is happiness, not every day, all day, but it's you being able to see that forward momentum and growth personally as well, because it truly shapes and molds us into how we show up and represent ourselves.
And I love what you're saying. And it actually reminds me of when Brandon says you got to be the example. Like, Scotty, what are you doing to show your personal wins? You know, maybe they just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's possible. Therefore, it's hard for them to identify. They don't have a picture of that. They don't have context to it.
Yep.
Right. So maybe your job is now to show them, be the example, exemplify that. And then you might be really surprised at how they align.
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you for calling on me. See you soon.
See you soon.
Can't wait. All right. So where are we going to see the rest of you?
I feel like a newscaster with
After
our, like we
tonight.
got our scripts like, meh, meh, meh,
You
even
do
though
not
we
want
don't
me
look
to
at
be a weather woman. I would be horrible. I'd be running off the page.
She'd be like, it's raining. I'm like, it's sunny. She'd be like, I know.
Whatever,
Anyway.
the sky's gray.
You
With
guys-
that,
yeah.
so we not only have our Scaling and Leadership Essentials workshop, which we've thrown up there for you guys,
Yeah.
we also are doing a tour. What is this tour,
Oh,
Heather?
what? A tour? Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Guys, if you are in the Nashville area, if you are in the Denver area, we Brandon and Natalie and the team are going to be doing a tour, a cash flow tour next week. So there is definitely, I don't know if we have a link to our cash flow tour site. If we could put that in the chat, that would be amazing. But it is a free meetup in Nashville and as well as in Denver next week. If you're around, we'd love to have you there. You can sign up to attend that, so we can get that in the chat. Also, while that's in the chat, something else to keep in mind is that if you love this type of content, you want more, you're like, I want to listen to this kind of stuff when I'm driving to the grocery store, or when I'm headed home from work to remind me about my me leadership.
Brandon all day, every day.
Yeah, well, we have a resource for that. So the B. Dawson podcast is exceptional. If you have listened to podcasts, please put 10X in the chat. If you've listened to Brandon Dawson podcasts, they are
when he
so
knows,
good.
and when he knows you're watching, that
Oh.
like fuels his fire. When
He'll do
he
more.
sees when he sees that engagement, he's like, we gotta film. He'll go to Heather, 20 videos
Oh
in
my
the
God.
next 2 hours. And Heather's
Literally.
like, okay.
Like, let's go film all that. Also, Natalie Dawson has her Workwoman podcast, equally
Phenomenal.
amazing and
Yep.
very people centric, meaning like she is constantly talking about these types of topics, and she spits truth, meaning she doesn't hold back. She
Tell you
is
how it
very
is.
real and how it is, and you can learn all about that as well in the Workwoman podcast. So we've got lots of stuff for you. We're probably overloading you right now, but you know, we hope to see some of you, hopefully to grab some of those seats for the end of this month, because meeting you in person would be absolutely amazing.
There's only 3 seats left. 2 seats. So
well, yeah, it really
Hurry up,
is. It is
folks.
already oversold. We're like an airline right now. It's like, but anyway, with that being said, I think we're going to kick it back over to the incredible, amazing, world-class individual sales team. His name is Enrique Algarin.
Woo!
He is the man, the myth, the legend. Enrique, are you there?
The whole purpose of this show is to engage with business owners and be able to answer questions for people that will give them some insight and perspective on how to grow and scale a business. Not only leadership, but real life examples. This is the golden moment. I would do business with you right now.